And now for Dinner with Racers, presented by
Continental Tire.
With your hosts, Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman.
Welcome, everyone, to Dinner with Racers Season 3. If you are listening to this episode, you are listening to a very special Part 2 of our dinner with Scott Tucker. No big fancy intro to this one because we already did that in the previous episode. But if you're just tuning in and have no idea what the hell the show is about, this is the third season of a cross-country road trip with my partner Ryan Eversley and I, in which we drove 13,000 miles for 34 days across 25 states to bring the audience 29 dinners with various people in motorsport. This is the continuation of a very special dinner that we had with Mr. Scott Tucker. If you're tuning into this episode, you probably heard our previous one in which we sort of gave his background, but Scott Tucker was the owner and creator of Level 5 Motorsports, which during its time in sports car racing was a huge team, and it was all funded basically out of pocket by Scott, who made his money in the short-term loan industry, otherwise known as payday loans. Scott, over the last several years, has been under heavier and heavier fire for some of his business practices, and we decided, for the sake of this dinner, to kind of split the episodes up into two parts. The first episode, which is the previous one, speaking purely about his racing endeavors with Level 5, and then the second episode being sort of exclusively about his business and legal matters that have been ongoing. So this is going to be a much shorter episode where we just discussed that. We felt that because the tone of the conversation was so dramatically different from one to the next, and that we sort of didn't want to soil one with the other, that we would sort of just keep them divided and make life a little bit easier to stomach, and also kind of respect Scott the racer and Scott the businessman. So what you're about to hear is basically his opinion on the various business and legal matters going on right now. It's important to note, if you're not familiar with our podcast, that Ryan and I are not journalists. He's a racing driver. I'm more of a marketing PR asshole. And between the two of us, the whole goal of this show has been to just sit down to dinner with people in racing and kind of know what it's like to sit down with them. We're not here to push an agenda. We're not here to cover with a specific angle or the sort of things that are expected with traditional journalists, but we do ask some of the hard questions. We do want to get his take on things, and that's what you're going to hear. So having said all that, if you haven't listened to the previous episode that's about his racing endeavors, I highly recommend checking that out. It gives you a very different perspective on kind of his enthusiasm and what he loved about the sport, which was really part of why we wanted to meet up with him. Of course, thanks to Acura for letting us drive their MDX all the way across the country, and most importantly, Continental Tire for all of their support making this entire program happen. Enjoy Scott Tucker, Part 2. Meow. All right, we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2. How many, beyond the sort of the stuff that you're most known for, how many businesses are you involved in these days?
You know, it's slimmed down quite a bit.
Sure.
I mean, at one time we had a fairly large private equity portfolio of different things, and
Right.
you know, actually it was too large.
And this is outside of AMG Services, or this is part of AMG?
No,
Separate
no,
deal.
way
Okay.
outside.
Okay,
yeah,
copy.
way outside. So, but yeah, that's slimmed down quite a bit,
Right.
and more focused on just specific things that
Sure.
we have more control over.
Copy.
Yeah.
Copy. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, things the government doesn't like.
To a racing fan who knows nothing about how this side of the world works, explain kind of what AMG Services it was, I guess, and kind of how would you, from your end, how would you define kind of the way things have sort of developed?
Well, all right. I think we should more start with what the controversy is.
Okay.
And what a lot of people don't understand in this country is that there are people that choose not to use normal traditional financing for a lot of different reasons. Most of it is that they don't really qualify for it. So when the banks stopped doing that, it opened up this huge market. This is about probably 30 years ago. And, credit cards, that different things. So there kind of became this service or this product, and it's referred to short-term or payday loan business. Okay. And, I'm just a business guy. And that when the banks kind of abandoned that entire industry, that those clients, it opened up this whole new opportunity for entrepreneurs. And what it is it's tens of thousands of small little loans. And where everybody gets jacked up on it is that the typical loan's for about 17 days. Okay, 17 days. So the way the federal rules work is that, like your credit card statement, when you extend consumer credit to a consumer, you have to put in this thing which was called an APR, annualized percentage rate. Annualized. That means for over a year. So I'll give you an example. The banks are excluded from that. If you write a check for $100 and you don't have enough money in your bank account and the bank pays it, what happens?
Get an overdraft.
That's right.
Yeah.
And how much does that typically cost today? I know.
I can tell you exactly how much.
How much does that pitcher of beer you just bought
on this
cost?
Tuesday, or whatever it is.
It's usually, depending on the bank, somewhere in the 30 range.
That's right.
Yeah.
About $39 average. So the bank covers your check for $100, and they just charge you $39 for it. Okay, but they don't want you to your next payday to come in and pay it. You need to come in and do it now. So let's say that loan is for 2 or 3 days. Okay, but the banks are not. They don't have to give you an APR on that. So if they did, do you know what that APR would be?
It's like a $35 on a,
$39 on $100 for 3 days. Let's say 3 or 4 days, whatever.
I'm not good enough with math, but it's above 29%.
It would be probably in the 3,000 or 4,000 APR range. Okay. Payday to loan design to give you that same loan without the overdraft, and you get it for 17 days, and it's $30. I mean, it's just really that simple. So the banks started seeing all these people coming into this business and was like, well, you're taking this business away from us. So then they go to the government and say, hey, this isn't fair. So it's just how it works. So there's this big market was created, and then the big guys in the business are, the banks are, using their lobbyists to go to the government to say, hey, put these guys out of business. So in a big thing, that's if you can kind of understand that. So when people say, oh, well, these loans, they're 400 or 500% APR, it's not even remotely accurate. For example, you take a taxi. Today, I take a taxi from over here to there, okay? So that'd be like me saying, well, you know what? I'm going to take that taxi every day for the next year. How much is that going to cost me? Like, well, it's going to cost me a shitload. Oh, no, but I'm only doing it for one, So there's a lot of misconception about that. But to understand, that's kind of what's been swirled up in here. And we built, with my clients, we built, we were in the very beginning, we built very large business. I mean, it's very similar to a credit card business. And the government didn't like it.
When somebody uses the term predatory, how do you take to that?
Well, when you try to explain, if I just went through this analogy, well, I'd say, well, the bank is much more predatory than these companies that are doing this. I mean, but that's not the narrative that goes out in the press. I mean, so that's why it's you can't even defend it. I mean, it's And another thing is that most people don't realize that it's a huge business, and the demand is bigger than it's ever been. And on any given day, there's probably 40 million Americans, just Americans, not all over the world, just America, that use the product. I mean, and it's not why they're not using the product because like they feel like they're getting fucked over. They're using it because it's fast, simple, and convenient. And early on, when we were working with our clients, that was the whole thing. It was about speed and convenience. It's like a taxi cab. It's like, oh, it's raining. We need to get from here to here right now, and I don't need bullshit. I need to get in the car and go. And that's what it was. And that basically, when the internet came, we were able to speed up that process and, do millions of transactions a day.
Do you know Montel Williams personally?
No, I don't know him.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I do not know him.
He was a spokesman for 500 fast cash or something like that. Yeah.
Money Mutual.
Money
Yeah.
Mutual.
Yeah.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah. I don't know him personally. No.
All right.
So we got tagged in a post the other day by a fan, and it was about your current situation with, I guess, the ongoing.
There's a lot of it.
Right. Are you scared? Are you worried? You seem so calm and like.
You guys are talking to me real live. You see me, right?
No, for sure.
yeah.
That's why.
Do I look
dude,
like I'm cowering
Yeah,
over
yeah.
the corner?
Yeah, no.
In the last 2 years, how many depositions have you given?
I give none.
Oh, interesting.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I don't give none. I give none. My attorneys handle all that stuff.
Because it feels like it's sort of a whack-a-mole thing at this point,
Yeah.
where it's like FTC is this side and
Yeah,
DOJ on the
that's
other.
right.
Yeah.
Well, because like I read that they like froze your accounts and they stop you from having attorneys
That's
and
right.
everything. But then I read like in the next sentence you have an attorney counsel, which sounds like attorneys to me.
Well, what happened was, and nobody can believe this, but they did freeze all my accounts, and they did freeze all my money, and they did freeze all my attorney's monies, and it was a fucking ball buster. And what we had to do is go to the court, and I was able to negotiate with them to where we got some other counsel that was actually, you guys are paying for it. Yeah.
Copy.
Isn't
I
that great?
understand. Okay.
Yeah, no. Think about this, okay? I got plenty of money in my attorney's trust accounts to pay for all this. But you know what? Oh, no. We're going to try to really f this guy over, and we're going to take all that away, and now we're going to make you pay for it. So, yes, I do have a lot of attorneys, but you guys are paying for them. So
By that you mean dinner with racers.
Yeah, exactly. Just us. Continental's getting the invoice. But so these are like, you have a public defender counsel?
Actually, they're called CJA, and that's
What is that?
That's a term the federal government used for public defender.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, historically, public defenders don't have the reputation of, say, a
We've
private firm.
We've seen movies.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody has.
So, I mean, one could argue that puts you in a very losing position.
Put me in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a difficult situation, and it's unfortunate that they have to do all these different things to.
And you feel this is sort of a public or a media reaction to use one of the staple guys of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's no doubt about that.
Okay.
Yeah. No doubt about
When
that.
the business started,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, early 2000s?
90s.
Oh, wow. Okay. At the time, did you see it going the way it did? Not in terms of being fruitful, but in terms of being as controversial as it became.
No.
Right. But it was the same business.
Exactly the same. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
It was only when the specific administration got in there and said, you know what? No.
You're talking about the Obama administration?
Specific administration. It's just like anybody else. You're just building business. I mean, we could have been building chairs. It just same thing.
So if I'm going to use your logic, just in terms of building some timelines, so around the time of the crash in 2008, Wells Fargo and some of the other banks got in a lot of heat for how they were sort of abusing the overdraft system. To the point that Wells Fargo had to really revamp their systems. In fact, I know I got a settlement along with millions of other people out of that.
Right.
So you're arguing that when that started to go down and they started getting in a lot of trouble, they started pointing a finger elsewhere.
Well,
to sort of say, like, well, look at these guys and what they're doing.
They created a new agency within the Obama administration, and it focused on the Consumer Protection Bureau. So, of course, they hire all these people that really don't know what they're doing to fill this big, and so they start going after these companies, and I don't want to use the word blackmail, but it's kind of what they do. They come in and threaten litigation unless you pay some big settlement, and when you really put the pencil to it, it's like, let's just pay the settlement and get this over with. So.
That's actually the part I'm confused by. So you paid a settlement in 2014.
Yeah.
And I don't know the exact figure, but it's somewhere in the 20 million range. And I thought, oh, okay, it's over.
Yeah,
and
so did I.
And so what happened? Now, like the DOJ thing is a different deal, but this is an FTC deal.
Right.
So was it a different law, or after further investigation they decided something else?
No. They just kept on coming.
And you don't get that $20 million back, obviously, right?
No, that's gone.
How does that work if you were working within the law for so long?
I know. Well,
That's what I'm saying.
riddle me that,
yeah. So if the law changes, you change with it, I'm
Right.
sure. But
Right.
but you feel as though you're getting kind of put under for something that existed, and now they're changing the law.
For almost 25 years. Yeah. Those are the facts. Regardless of what you read, those are the facts.
You watch much TV?
No.
Oh, you ever seen Billions?
Yeah, I've
What
seen
do you think of that show?
It's funny.
I love that show.
I'm about to say, like, you're a little bit of an Axelrod.
You know, all that story is taking place right here in Manhattan because it's a total knockoff of it.
Right.
Of actually a trader, Stephen Cohen.
Right.
I mean, and Cohen. If you actually saw him in person and you see Axelrod,
Sure,
you can see that
little Hollywood magic.
Oh, it's a direct.
Well, Cohen, he's behind the scenes.
Right.
He's writing the story about himself, so he
okay.
wants his badass Axelrod in there.
Nice.
Who just he has an answer for everything.
Right.
So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And the guy that plays the prosecutor is the ex-prosecutor who just got hired here. So yeah.
Okay,
But
so-
no, it's a good show. I like it.
All right. Who's going to play Scott Tucker in Billions 2, the racing version?
Well, Netflix is doing a documentary on it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Can we promote that?
Yeah. When's it coming out?
It's a big secret.
Oh.
They filmed a lot of it.
Are we allowed to put this out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody wants a real story. Yeah, Netflix is going to have it.
Is there a timeline?
They're secretive about it.
Sure.
Because,
That kind of wants to see how it ends, I assume.
if you look at
Yeah.
Netflix now, I mean,
Yeah.
they're like
Killing
they're like a movie
Killing it.
Right.
produced. So they need content.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They've got a lot of it in the can. I think they want to finish up after some of this stuff's done, but
Sure.
a lot of it's done. They filmed
Right.
for almost a year.
Right.
A lot of interviews, and so far in that story, I play myself.
He's like Scott Tucker plays Scott Tucker.
Yeah.
Do you think it portrays you fairly, or do you think
Yeah,
it's
I haven't seen the final,
Right,
but,
right.
but all the stuff that they've done has been pretty fair and balanced.
Okay.
They look at this side and they look at that side, and then again they look at all the media stuff. And he's asked me this question. I was like, that's not true. That's false. But some wing-ding on the internet in India wrote this story, and everybody that believes it. It's like, well, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's false. That's not accurate. And that's just Trump fake news.
When somebody sort of says something like Level 5 was sort of built on the backs of poor people who needed money fast, how do you take to that?
It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. My clients who've been in business for a long time, I owned all the software that ran it. I mean, it's huge. And the people that would use the service and use the product and use the loan, all of them were employed, all of them had bank accounts. I mean, so this myth that you're going down the road and there's some hobo on the street and you're putting a gun to his head and say, hey, you need to do this, it's f***ing ridiculous. And so you've got a person who's employed, who's bankable, has a bank account.
Right.
I mean,
what was the criteria?
I'm trying to give some general stuff, but I mean, the monthly income, it's up like in the $2,000 range, and it's on the internet. If you want it, you can do it. If you don't do it. And it's not like you're going into like some little specific area of the city, and putting this. It's.
I know I seem cool, but I watch a lot of late night Comedy Central. You know what I mean? And as hugely financially successful as I am, arguably people who are watching cable at late night demographically may not be doing as well, and so people look at that and go, okay, that's why it's predatory, because he's marketing to this sect of people who are watching cable at 2 a.m.
That's one very small part of the marketing campaigns for this industry. That is, it's a very small one. I mean, you see it, it's more visible, but it's mainly online. I mean, so.
Kind of my final question or thought on that. What's the timeline here? Like, how long are you going to have to deal with this ongoing deal right now?
That's a great question. And Hard to say, man.
Yeah.
It's really
I
hard to say.
assume 2014, you probably thought you were dumb.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And once it's hard to explain to people, but people who've been through similar situations, which I don't know many people have, but you get the full force of the U.S. government behind you, on you. Dude.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so you've got public defenders.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, I mean, it's a losing game in the way it's looking. Like, no
Yep.
one's going to be satisfied until
Right.
they make a public statement
Uh-huh.
on you. So,
Uh-huh.
are you prepared for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, being in business for 25, 30 years,
Right.
and then all of a sudden, like, oh, that was a red light 20 years ago, it's but, you got to deal with it, and either you believe in what you're doing, you stand by, or you go cower in the corner. So what's going to happen is going to happen, and we're going to give it our best. But it's almost like going to a gunfight with a Weeblo knife.
You could have ran like a couple of years ago, when
Easy.
before everything went out. But
Easy.
and you didn't because you thought nothing would happen, or you're like, you don't care. This is what you did.
We had 3,000 employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over 15 million customers. Been in business almost 30 years.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
How did it when the business sort of had to wind down? Was there a day where it was sort of-
but what you don't understand, the business hasn't wind down. It's still operating full blast. Yeah, except because the judge, they're prohibiting me to be there. But no, the business.
the business is fine? Yeah. yeah.
Yes.
Still going.
Yes.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? Isn't that weird? That's insane.
So, in other words, if you're trying to make the argument that this is just a publicity thing, wouldn't the business not be operating?
They'd be like, stop it right now.
Yeah,
Like, boop.
exactly. But somehow just
Okay.
the figurehead attached to it is the guy that's under fire.
Still doing. They're bigger than they ever were. Yep. Isn't that crazy?
Knowing what you know now about how everything has unfolded and still unfolding, would you do anything different?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
All right, and that will kind of conclude our Scott Tucker two-part special. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you to Scott for the time, tremendous insight, and an ongoing story that we're very curious to see how this unfolds. Now, I will tease something that may or may not prove true, but stay tuned because there may be more to say from Scott, and it may come from us, but time will tell on that. So. More to come as we know it. But in any case, this is going to wrap out sort of the first wave of our Dinner with Racers releases. There are something like 17 more recordings coming to you mid-December. So if you made it this far, thanks for sticking with us. Can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of our guests and especially all of our fans who continue to listen to us, continue to say amazingly good things, which we never expected. And the proof has been the amazing number of guest submissions we've got. I can't tell you how overwhelming it is to hear from Natasha just how many people have written to us. It's a lot more than we thought, and that's a really amazing sign of how engaged you guys are and how much you want to be part of it. So that's cool. Since we're at this sort of midpoint before the big break, speaking of Natasha, I want to thank Natasha. I want to thank Mr. Richard Poole for all of your help. Of course, Sherry at Continental for your longtime support. But also, of course, not just Ryan for everything he does, but my business partner, Jason Medbury. And a huge thank you to Mr. Josh Fahey, who has been an incredible part of Season 3, just helping out with a lot of odds and ends that we couldn't handle. So it's been a hell of a ride. So let's wrap this out with a group. I believe it's pronounced Graveler, Gravler. You can find them on their website at graveler.com. You can also find them on Bandcamp. Here's a lovely little ditty. Do people say that? I don't know. Anyway, it's called Give Up the Ghost.